We can try to persuade them. We can tell them, like, look, it's cheaper and it's better and it's possible. If we can demonstrate that, maybe in some example regions, some example companies, example states, whatever, I think then we should be able to create this fundamental shift.
And we're going to talk about the electron side of things.
Charging is way more distributed. It's not happening on, let's say, one type of places, happens on many type of places. And all of those places have different challenges. Need, in a way, the similar software because you're always interacting with a car, you're always interacting with the power grid, with payment engines. What we built in our company is like a universal SDK, software development kit, where you can customize that and drive everything from your home wallbox to a supercharger. We have to make sure that we're building a really good translator, a charging station software who is able to understand every car.
Everyone has an impact that they can make, no matter how small it is. You never know where the ripple effect will travel and what impact you will make in another person's life. Maybe that person will be the next who's going to change the world. Let's make climate cool again. Let's make climate cool again. High five.
Yeah, you're listening to Bite Size Climate Tech, Season 3.
Last is the best.
Let's see.
So I have Marco. He's the CEO of PIONIX.
Yes.
We're going to talk about the electron side of things.
We do charging station software, so electric vehicles, in our opinion, a really, really big puzzle piece of the future. If you stop burning fuels in cars and trucks and boats and planes and whatever, but using electrons directly, I think someone else, you said before, it's all about efficiency, and this is way more efficient use of energy, and it can be totally carbon neutral. We help to drive that.
How do we electrify the transportation?
In principle, it's already happening. It's happening massively. In countries like China, they're going really, really all in on bring all vehicles, getting rid of the fueling plug and putting electric plug onto the vehicles. The missing piece from my perspective is that this is sometimes, let's say, complicated to do, sometimes doesn't work. And in our opinion, a lot of the issues here is good software so that this devices just work. If you plug in your car, you don't have to be afraid that things going south. And that's what we're helping with. And I think in general, this entire industry, in my opinion, in the beginning, it was driven by let's make some green technology, be better for the climate. But meanwhile, and I think that's little understood in the general public, it's just cheaper to drive electric. Mm-hmm. And if you look on the cost curves, like how battery prices coming down, how EV prices coming down, this is going to be massive. So end of the day, you have a better car, you have a better truck, and you can operate it cheaper. There's always also the discussion like, oh, but the global south will never use electric vehicle. This is something for the rich West. But if you look on the reality, I have a lot of friends in Africa, a family in Brazil. This is happening way sooner and way more global than most people currently anticipate. This is something we also have to push with our company to a certain extent.
That's what behind your company's concept, the open source thing, that you can help this make a reality?
At the moment, maybe about charging, I think most people think about charging. Probably it's like fueling a car. Charging is very different because like you typically, if you have a private home, you can often charge at home. So the amount of energy, let's say, consumed in this classical fueling places is maybe only a tenth of what you do with with electrical cars compared to with classical ones. Because you charge at different places. You charge at the supermarket. You charge at your workplace because maybe your employer electrified the parking ground for the employees. Maybe charging at home. Maybe you're charging while you're in the supermarket once a week and doing your weekly shopping. So charging is very different. That's also why, for example, Tesla, yes, they have this huge charging parks, but meanwhile, there's so many other companies who went bigger, and also charging is way more distributed. It's not happening on, let's say, one type of places, happens on many type of places. And all of those places have different challenges and need, in a way, the similar software because you're always interacting with a car, you're always interacting with the power grid, with payment engines, with whatever. Those coordination, what we built in our company is like a universal SDK, software development kit, where you can customize that and drive everything from your home wallbox to a supercharger. And our purpose is building amazing charging stations.
So your company is building this amazing charging software, so everyone will be able to access this and charge better. In a way, in the future, we can electrify the transportation.
Yeah, so we're building this amazing software, and I think the interesting fact, you mentioned that in the last question, we're not building that alone. We're building that with a global open source community, which is really spanning from world-leading corporates in the space to startups to public research centers to even the US government is subsidizing the open source component because it was for them strategic interest to push innovation to the next level, getting infrastructure out there better. The rationale was like, if we're already doing subsidies in the space, let's make it count. Let's build the proper infrastructure so they had certain requirements. And then they said, okay, let's help with open source so people can fulfill that requirement. And this way, we have built a huge ecosystem of different parties doing that software together. Yeah, and then my company is basically helping those corporates building charters who can't or don't want to do the journey alone. And then we're happy to help them.
It's like making things more equitable for everyone, and then you're grouping all the smart people and companies who want to make a change together.
How would you explain this to an 8-year-old?
So you know that your classical car you have at home needs to be fueled once in a while. And that's also true for future cars. But there it's not fuel coming in. It's more like plugging your car into the wall, into a power plug, so it can get electricity from the house and from somewhere. For charging, there's computers in your car. There's a computer in the wall where you're plugging in. Those computers have to understand each other. They have to talk like, oh, you're a car. What do you need from me? How much electricity? They often don't understand each other. They're speaking different languages. They're speaking different dialects. We have to make sure that we're building a really good translator, a charging station software who is able to understand every car and speaking with everyone. And since there are so many cars out there and so many computers in the internet, the charging stations have to talk to. And this is a so big problem. We're not doing it alone. A global team of many, many people, really smart people, and doing that together. And by that, we're able to build the best software in the world.
Awesome. A translator for the software for the cars. A question from a previous guest.
Like, how do you build the trust for people to get into climate action, doing something for the climate?
I think there's a lot of smart people already working in climate. The question is very valuable, but I would interpret it in a slightly different way. Because I think what's often missing also nowadays was skeptical movement, populistic movement, could be on the left, could be on the right, rising all over the place. How can you motivate the general public that they're supporting this green transition? So they're not fighting it, but they're embracing it. And I think you need role models where you see it works. Because the narrative, which is painted out there against the green transition, this will never work, it's failed, oh, look at whatever country, the economics is going down, this is all because of the green. And I think we need role models to prove that this is wrong. And we have to show their solution, and this is going to be great. I mean, telling the positive stories about the future and making the positive future tangible, like startups showing that you can do it. And also, to be honest, I think it has to be affordable. End of the day, yes, I would be able to pay a green premium and would also be willing to do. There are a lot of people who don't care. End of the day, we can try to persuade them, or we can tell them, like, look, it's cheaper and it's better, so why not doing it? And it's possible. If we can demonstrate that, maybe in some example regions, some example companies, example states, whatever, I think then we should be able to create this fundamental shift. I myself, in my hobby time, free time, a climate communicator quite a bit in Germany, part of the Scientists for Future movement and the Parents for Future movement. There's a lot of people who try to explain like, oh, this is all about you have to consume less, you have to be careful. But how many % of the population can you reach with that? So many % of the people would be like, okay, then I don't fly to vacation. Most of the people would do anyway. I think this is called techno-optimism, but I think it's the only way. So we have to find a solution and get the same quality of life delivered, the same services, the same goods, but in a green, ideally even cheaper way. This is the thing we should drive forward. At the same time, I think it's also okay to forbid something. I mean, it's forbid to poison the groundwater. Why is it allowed to poison the air? And this is something I don't get. Why this is something, a narrative which was created out there that we can't, let's say, reduce regulation to just rule out certain things. I know you have to do it steadily, but before we have to prove that there is an end target which is desirable. But then I think after a while we can also push societies there.
Yeah, great. I think the communication, and this is why we're doing this podcast, right, to reach as many people as possible. And then you have the end goal, and how do you work from there and to reach the destination. Do you have a question for the next guest?
You had in the beginning this Mentimeter with what you came in mind with climate change. And for me, it's one word was cost curve. So technology scaling up. So in a way, I'm super optimistic that we can do this. I see all the innovation, the prices coming down, things getting better. On the one hand, I'm super optimistic. On the other hand, I'm super pessimistic. If I see all the dramatic short-term accelerating climate changes and shift, I think now in Germany, we had in the last couple of months, the fourth once in a century flooding. So people are already joking they should rename that to once in a month flooding because they're now getting so extreme. So I have this little angel like, oh, everything is great. The little devil, everything is disastrous. So what do you think, dear next guest? Where we will end up? Will we make it? Will we make it fast enough? Where do you stand between this doomsday and the optimism?
Why did you start to work in climate?
In a way, I was educated about this green transition like from my parents from the beginning, but I have not worked in that field for a while. Then I had a drone company before I was working in the drone space. So like small flying airplanes taking pictures for construction purposes. Then that job was coming to an end after the exit and I was looking what I should do next with my life. Then Greta Thunberg happened. I'm like, okay, right. This is a good reminder. She's right. Focus on this. Maybe I should do something. I started to get engaged in the local climate movement, started to do talks. Then I left my last company and then we stumbled over a nice opportunity in this field. Like, oh, this can combine my strengths with my interest, with the purpose I would like to deliver. And this was just a perfect opportunity. I was grabbing it together with my team and we all went all in.
Let's make climate cool again. Bye-bye. Great, it's a wrap.